Twitch says hello. YouTube says hello. I believe that means hello. I don't remember which of these buttons I use. This one. This one looks good. Oh, I wanted to zoom that out. There we go. It is a Thursday night. I am a Screaming Wyvern. And today has not been a great day for a large number of reasons. So that would make it a perfect day for a storytelling adventure where I end up feeling more than a little cranky. And today, as I did last week, I will be playing the Cog That Remains, which is an excellent, I think the kids call it a journaling style role-playing game. Still need to look through and find out exactly what the different types are. So let's go ahead and shuffle the deck real quick. Go over the how it is played. Basically, I am telling a story. The story is prompted through a series of questions that are brought up by these combinations of cards and, well, just combinations of cards and their suits and colors, numbers, I guess. You know how a card works. Apparently, I think I don't. So anything that comes up hearts is going to have to do with the pilot. Anything that has to do with clubs has to do with the mecha itself. Diamonds represent military actions and or decisions, and spades involve the enemy. This game is designed with the idea that you can use one of those as a legal name, so we'll just call it Tumbling Block Tower for simplicity's sake. Instead of doing that, I have kind of estimated that well, let me go ahead and put it a different way. Seamus has suggested that if you don't have a tumbling block tower, then after 16 turns, 16 times that you're supposed to draw from the tower, that's probably about the time that it'll fall over. I wanted to go ahead and add a little bit of randomness to it, so I moved the number from 16 to 30. But when a piece is pulled, first off, there's a chance that chaos could completely screw with everything, which is pretty much the state of life right now. So we roll that if it's higher than the difficulty level, as I've called it, which obviously is not going to be for until we get to 20, 19 technically. Then that would be the collapse, and then I roll the d4 here to see how much it actually goes down by. In this case, it would be 3. So let's go ahead and reread some of the introductory things here. Just to get me back into the mood, as it were. Mecha. Giant robotic weapons of war fly among the stars and stride across battlefields controlled by pirates. Although that technically could be true, that's not the story that we're doing tonight. We're doing one about soldiers, not pirates. So let's go ahead and try that again. Mecha. Giant robotic weapons of war fly among the stars and stride across battlefields, controlled by pilots, brave, terrified, determined, desperate, who will write the history books with beamfire and missile barrages. That is not your role. You are the chief mechanic. It is your job to repair, maintain, and maybe even upgrade a mecha in between missions. In doing so, you keep the mecha in the fight. In doing so, you keep the pilot alive. At least that's the goal. In reality, the supplies are never as plentiful as they should be. The ally is not as dependable. You, better than anyone else, know how fragile a mecha can be. You know that the pilot is not yet a legend, but an all too fallible human being. You'll do the best you can. It's your job, after all. But you're all too aware how likely it is that when it comes to this weapon of war, you will be the cog that remains. Okay, being told that YouTube is not currently happy with my stream. Let's see if I can make it happy without making Twitch unhappy. Let's also make sure that I am not streaming through my phone, since that's a thing what happened before. Let's see. Output. Still grumpy with me. Well, let's push this button here. What do you want? Okay, that's good to hear. Tell me if that changes. I don't know what some of the things it's telling me are, but maybe I'll just not care about it. Okay, I'm gonna go with that one. That sounds good. So, let's go ahead and bring up the book. is the first page? Nope. Gone too far. There are a set of questions. Oh, there they are. Okay. So, who was the chief mechanic you were about to play last week? Last week, I was chief engineer Wyvern, because, of course. Wyvern had been working for a while with a mech that we referred to as the Beast. Unfortunately, that mech has been destroyed. He was able to take some shore leave to mourn his pilot, who he had become overly attached to in a fatherly sort of way. I am a 50-year-old man after all. Quickly, oh, there you go. Yeah, that's one. And save this real quick. So right now, just like me, he's got a chip on his shoulder a mile wide, although our reasons may slightly differ. Also, he spent at least a week of his shore leave trying to get used to driving in a mech again. Doing some volunteer work with industrial mechs because there was a situation where he needed to commandeer the Beast, and he tripped over the entire thing almost immediately, which was technically okay under the circumstances because it made the enemy think that it had been destroyed. So, who are the lower ranking mechanics on the team and how do you manage them? Before, I was seeing him as a fairly easygoing boss, far more interested in how his charge was doing. I'm not so sure that that's a good description now. I think that losing the Beast may be enough to cause him to over-prepare and be less than be hyper-focused. I was going to say less than focused, but more hyper-focused. That being said, after he went on shore leave, two of his old squad, Carolyn Meyer and Bailey Norton, that's all who stayed behind after the loss of the Beast and Zoe. So they are going to be his supervising engineers. So hopefully he'll be able to get a little more, ignore it a little more. Who is the pilot who takes the mech into combat? At this time, Chief Engineer, Chief Mechanic, and Wyvern has no idea. Albert Decker is a new pilot. This will be his first time piloting for the war effort. He definitely would have started in the infantry before joining the armor units. So, absolutely nothing. Nothing is certain about Albert yet. The mecha. I have decided that. So, in the previous chapter, Zoe at one point had managed to convince one of the enemy to turn coat. And then shortly after, she was killed in action. There was a point where Chief Mechanic Wyvern was going to be promoted, but refused to leave Zoe's side. I think that, given what happened there, they're going to go ahead and let him get his hands on a. Well, the actual mech is one of my old favorites from BattleTech, the Mad Cat, which is before we were using a model called the Wasp, which was, I assumed, a fairly standard mass-produced one. This one is going to be a brand new one with built-in weapon systems. The downside is that parts are going to be a lot harder for him to come by. So that could make things interesting. So, this one is definitely going to be a specific role. The Mad Cat is a missile mech. Previously, I had nothing but frontline infantry. So this is going to be a whole new thing for everyone. And a lot of changes are going to have to come down the pike to make this all work properly. That being said, there is one card that if I come across it, I'm going to skip it because it doesn't make sense yet in the context of the game. So, what is the military that they are all a part of? Like, what are their goals right now? We are on one side of a planet. The enemy is on the other side, and in between, there are large deposits of some resource. Unfortunately, I don't remember what it was from last time. Maybe I took a note. Let's go ahead and see if that's in here somewhere. But we can go ahead and temporarily call it unobtainium, just as something to refer to it. So really the only thing that anyone cares about is that they need these. And how much of it is we need the element? How much of it is we need to show the enemy that they can't stop us? Obviously, ego drives the military far more than anything else. that really all? Yeah. Who is the enemy and what are they like? What are their goals? You know, it's I really can't help but think in a situation like this that it's all the red versus blue. Hey, why are we here? We've got a base on this side. They've got a base on that side. Um, what's our job? Well, we're trying to take their base, but why? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. So yeah, the enemy is just us, but from a different planetary system. I've kind of got headcanon on some of the worlds involved. The Stackpole system is where the mechs are primarily produced. The Weber system is massive air fleet, space navy. You don't want to get on their bad side, but frankly, we're just two systems that need this resource and need to show that we can take it from the other side. Which, of course, goes straight into what brought the two sides into conflict, which is nobody knows. More likely than not, it's some stupid family thing. But when you're at our level, that kind of thing doesn't matter. Okay, let's go ahead and minimize that. We'll go ahead and scooch in here a little more. Make sure this is good and shuffled. Okay, so step one. Happy with those where it is. Let's go ahead and scooch that to the side. You can come over here. You can come over here. And I am supposed to have a 6-sided die. So let's go ahead and grab me one of those. Pretty chrome metal die. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do. Wait, no, in the air, damn it. 2. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and draw 2 cards. So the first one for today's story is going to be the 8 of clubs. Wonderful. We're going to go straight to possibly actually this goes perfectly with what I was saying before. The mecha begins operating in a new environment that no mere software update can begin to address. What kind of environment is it? What attachment or modification do you design and upgrade the mecha with as a result? Go ahead and check this. And the other one is going to be the 10 of Hearts. In trying to keep others safe, civilian their fellow soldiers may venue. The pilot puts themselves into the most dangerous positions and goes up against the most lethal opponents alone. We are starting in a bad place. No surprises there. Okay, so just to clarify, last time I went ahead and just did the things individually. That is always an option, but it's also you're supposed to grab a bunch of cards at the same time and then figure out exactly how you want to deal with them. I'm going to see how that works. I know. Voice type. Chief Mechanic Log. It seems like Albert has something to prove. Checking his records, he's got got family from the Weber system, so they are all hot shots up there. Don't know how he ended up infantry on a backwards planet like this one. If he's got contacts like that, they've always got a need for flyboys. But that doesn't change the facts for me. I've got this kid who thinks he's one of those superhero types who's going to spend their entire time on the front lines. And he's riding an armor that's designed for the back lines. It's a goddamn missile silo, kid. So, yeah, needless to say, he's been losing systems in the field. And of course, the rest of the armor don't know what to do with him, don't know how to work around him. I want to give him a piece of my mind, let him know that everything's got a specific job to do, and he's not letting himself or this mech have a chance to figure out what that is. Solutions, Wyvern, just solutions. Okay. So he's currently got long-range missile support. We can probably get some missiles that have a slightly lower payload so that he can use them up close instead. And we should be able to do that without having to worry about changing too much. The guns, well, we're actually going to have to up those as far as power is concerned, because those are supposed to be for emergencies, but he's not giving us that, so let's go ahead and see if we can get a little more oomph out of them. Probably do some overclocking of the heat exchanger so that it can get more shots out. But yeah, it wouldn't be a terrible thing if he had a little more idea how to handle the hills and mountains before he went running to the front. Get that over to Norton, see what they think of it. And log. Throw out this card for the moment. This. That was an actual roll, not just a flip, right? Okay. 1, 2, 3. You know, I'm a computer engineer. I should be able to trust the rolling apparatus, but I've played enough role-playing games to be suspicious of everything. Okay. That's interesting. So, clubs. Spades. Spades is the enemy. Enemy propaganda paints your pilot as a war criminal and your mech as a tool of murder. Pull from the tower. Sigh. How does morale take a hit because of this? Clubs. The original standard paint job is long gone, scraped and scorched in some places, vaporized away, so you decide to give the mecha a new look. I don't necessarily agree with that, but or the paint job being long gone, but I think that goes well with him being considered a war criminal. So definitely can throw those two together. And back in the spades. This one. Spy leaks the technical specifications of your mecha to the enemy. Pull from the tower. Do not replace the block in the tower. Remove from the game entirely. Okay, that instruction doesn't necessarily fit with how I'm doing things, but go ahead and toss that, and that gives me 1. So, yeah, we are already at the point where we are just in the edge of starting to roll for situations. So, these two are a log by itself. This one is a separate log. Well, Albert takes advice like a cat takes the water. So he's been sending that mech up to the front no matter how many times I tell him that half of his weapons are actually for distance. Well, just because I've taken the time to lower the charge on one side of his missile batteries doesn't mean that they're all in perfect shape. So there was an incident. One of the missiles from his ship, his armor, sorry, failed its explosion plan. Not too surprising. We're basically jury rigging these things as they're coming in from base. So what I suspect is that they picked up the missile as salvage afterwards, got whatever information they felt they needed from it, and then made the whole thing go boom in a population center. The nice thing about having an experimental mech is that it's really easy for the enemy to know who's who. So, news reports talking all about how our latest pilot in his experimental machine shoved a long range missile so far past the field of war that it hurt innocents. And maybe he's getting scowls from other people. But I tell you one thing, hasn't harmed my kids at all. They know exactly what happened. Okay, some of them are feeling guilty that the missile didn't go off when it was supposed to and could be used for this. But we all know the fact is that the enemy, wanting to make some propaganda, went ahead and blew up men, women, children from their own side just to try and make us look like monsters. Maybe that's what I'll call Owl's Mac from here on out, the monster. Shit, did I call him Al? Albert. I'm not close to him. I'm not getting close to him. That's for Caroline and Bailey to do. So it turns out that the monster is not quite as much of a new design as we thought it was supposed to be, and yeah, they they managed to get a hand on some blueprints, and they managed to figure out exactly where the weak points of the guns were, the arm cannons, as it were. So Albert's pissed, not at any of us, although sometimes he's lashing out at the kids, and I've been telling them to lash right back because that ain't gonna fly. The point is, oh, let's go ahead and pull up these. Okay. So basically, the problem is there is this inspection plate right here. It's come in handy, don't get me wrong, but it's also a weak spot when you're facing forward on it. I really don't like the idea of moving it, but it also barely covers up a lot of wiring. And part of that wiring doing is getting from point A, being the engine, to point B, being the guns. So yeah, about the only thing I can see doing is going ahead and plating over those completely, joining it together heavily enough that it's not going to ever come out in the field. And then instead of us just being able to go ahead and getting it some of the wires through that panel, we're going to have the fun of unscrewing the entire mount for the underarm here. Tell you one thing, it's not going to be pretty. It is not going to be pretty. Which gives me an idea. Let's go ahead and repaint the thing. I mean, they're already. It's not like they're going to know. It's not like they're not going to know. It's the same damn ship. Where the hell did I get it in my head to start calling armor ships? Anyway. If he's going to be in the front lines anyway, and they're going to claim that he's some kind of supervillain, let's own that. Red and black, baby. Red and black. Main torso, red. Black for the cockpit area. Black for the arms and legs. They want a villain? We'll give them one. I mean, it just looks better. Okay. Hold 6. Six of spades. Wow. Specialized squad of enemy mecha go up against yours. What weapon, quirk, or tactic makes them more dangerous than usual, and how have you tried to prepare your machine for them? 10 of spades. The mecha's original weapon systems aren't up to the task of defeating the opponents it's now facing. How do you give the mecha a bit of extra firepower? Constant raids mean you and your crew have almost no chance to rest. Something about the mecha's original construction was flawed. Another team of mechanics outright steals a part you need. And a 10 of spades. Saboteurs infiltrate the base and sabotage the mission, the mecha, before its next mission. That is a lot of shit to go down in one turn. Okay. We're going to go ahead and get the 10 of spades as an opening salvo for this discussion. And that goes well with us just plain not having the time and energy to handle things. Now, them sabotaging it is going to give us information about the original construction that needs help. So that's kind of its own thing. And that goes with someone straight up stealing from us. And if everyone survives, go ahead and finish that up with the elite squad. So let's go ahead and make sure ten of spades. Oops. That's a pull from the tower. 6. 6 is also a pull from the tower. 16, very close. Maybe over too soon. Actually, just putting these two together. This is Special Aid Squad. And they're dealing with that not being up to task. Okay. Yes. Okay. Let's get this story figured out. So, my idea of making the monster super scary villain for the enemy seems like it worked too good. They figured out that this is the base that he's coming from. So they've been bypassing the battleground and coming straight to us. Constant flood. Infantry, armor, even few bombers. So anytime I might have had to rest from dealing with whatever happened to Albert's stuff gets ruined because I've got to go send the kids out to help someone else out. Carolyn and Bailey have been doing a fantastic job of keeping things vaguely sane, but I've still got a job to do. And part of that is I've still got a war to fight. So we do what we can. But then we find out that things just aren't working properly when we try to send the monster back out. It looks like someone from the other side managed to get in. And because we were away trying to help with other parts of the base, they were able to remove the weld job that was keeping the weakness in the R mount at bay. And from there, it was just a few snips inside to make sure that the guns weren't working at all. So that was pretty tragic when Albert tried to run out to help stop an assault of enemy armor units. I mean, on the plus side, we were able to figure out that the huge hunk of metal we had wrapped around the shoulder piece was all of a sudden loose. So it didn't take us too long to get that back on. And once, as soon as we had unhitched the elbow, we were able to get in there and replace most of the wiring, but I don't know. Did I actually fix the wiring, or did I just jury rig it so that it'll survive until the middle of the next fight that he's in on close quarters? Honestly, maybe I'm just gonna have to sit down with him and tell him, God damn it, Al. This vehicle is meant to support. You were hired for support. Get your ass to the rear and let the rank and file keep him away from you. Of course, I don't expect to listen to me. It's got a skull like. Okay, let's be honest here. Mine. Chief Mechanic's log. Personal. It feels like a year ago that I was talking about the idea of getting everything into a more compartmentalized system so that you can just go ahead and unplug things, replace them. Right now, I'm really loving that idea because guess what? The number one reason for this mech to even exist, the missile. There's no way to access it. I mean, there's ways to access the launchers, but once as soon as something goes south inside, there's no access at all. So if we've had to cut off an entire section of the back of the launchers so that we can rewire things so that the computer can talk to the missiles again. Which, again, one of those things which you would think that they would have planned around, since missile launcher, artillery mech. So right now, it feels like when the monster goes into combat, phase first, everything's fine. But the way we've had to rip those missile launchers open to try and get at those wires and cables, Al might as well be standing there with nothing but his boxers on when he's being attacked from the back. Which, again, if he'll stick to the plan of staying in the back, isn't going to be too much of a problem. But once soon as someone notices, and let's be honest about it, they still have the blueprints. That's not going to be the best time. Okay. So, pull from the tower for the 6 of spades. 4. Ouch. Pull from the tower for the 10 of clubs. That's close. Okay, please tell me the 8 of diamonds isn't a pull. It's a pull. I think this is going to be our last part of the story. My lips to Satan's ears. Should have remembered that. Should have remembered that. So, they've got these light mechs now. They just completely ignore the main push and just scooch around. Technically, they're nothing more than scouts. But when they know exactly where to hit, it doesn't matter that they're only anything. So there they are, scooching around, ignoring the entire armor infantry. And Albert's trying frantically to spin around so that he can get his weapons into position. And it's like, does he do his job and stay active? Or does he protect himself and everything goes to shit in the middle of the combat? Now, the best thing is, because they just started using tactics which involved him, the armor infantry that's in the front is getting the shit knocked out of them. So, guess who's decided that they need to take priority when it comes to supplies, between supply runs? Do you think it's the brand new mech that everyone's supposed to be changing their game plans to support? Oh no, sir. It is absolutely the armor infantry. So I've got a mech with a huge fucking weak point, whose weapons just are not up to keeping him protected and staying in the game at the same time. Oh God. Remember to Bailey. Look into getting some of the out of service mechs. What we're specifically looking for is a cockpit from one of them. And we're going to go ahead and replace all that jury rigging we've done on one of those arms to try and keep it safe. We're getting Albert a co-pilot. Because if he only has to worry about one of his guns and his missiles, And it doesn't have to be anyone who can has full tests. Just need someone who can run a tank. I would be willing to bet that there's somewhere in the mobile cavalry who would take a shine to getting halfway into a mech. So that's a fantastic idea. But given how close things are, I'm not expecting it to do much. Okay, 10 of diamonds. 10 of diamonds is... A new commander mandates extra checks on every machine. That's a pull. Oh, nice. Oh no, this is the one I'm throwing out. And 6 of clubs. That's an interesting combination. Pilot comes up with their own mission plan to propose to high command and comes to you for help with it. What's the plan, and what does the plan require of you in your time? We're going to go ahead and take care of the pull for the 10 of diamonds. Okay, so it is officially over after this. I'll go ahead and roll this for amusement's sake. I don't even know why I'm plugging these back in. There's no serious sound coming through. Oh no, I won't be able to hear my own dice sounds. Okay. So they replaced the base commander. This one's way more of a hard ass. And he's also... Oh, I think the tactful thing to say is an idiot. He thinks that if you check every system 3 times before you go out into the field, then you're guaranteed to have a perfectly working mech. Well, sir, what you've got is things checked, everything being fine, and a perfectly good armor that could be out in the field, but no, instead it's wasting space in a repair bay. On the plus side, it has given me a chance to have the kids take on different parts of the craft every time. So, first off, they'll check the right side, then they'll check the left side, go into the cockpit. Shame I've only got 2 supervisors. But between the three of us, we're keeping things checked out and in shape. Or at least we're trying to. Al came to me with this brilliant idea of his that maybe, since now he's got a second working for him to do some of the defenses, he should go ahead and go onto the field without the rest of the infantry. As in, they go left, he goes right by himself. It is an absolutely terrible idea, but it's one that will work once. The kid's got guts, I'll give him that much. Besides, I'm not really overly concerned because there's no way that the commander is going to go with the attitude of, oh, let's go ahead and keep everything in the safest place possible until we know it's absolutely ready. To all of a sudden going, oh, yeah, we'll go ahead and have one of our mechs just go on by themselves. So yeah, I'll talk to the chiefs with him. This is the final report on prototype missile mech and its pilot, Albert Decker. I would be willing to place bets that Albert went out the way that he was most hoping to, in a blaze of glory. I can't help but feel that it's my fault for supporting that decision. And I mourn the loss of a good man and the opportunities that our new mech would have given us had we continued to explore our options with it. As per his plan, we set up a feint. The armor infantry set up a feint, knowing that the enemy knew A, the monster came from this specific repair depot, B, the monster always traveled with a group of mobile armor, and C, they always were in front with him in back. So it looked like they were headed to block a supply route from the mines, when the actual target were the mines themselves. It was an early enough raid that civilian casualties were low, But given the fact that Albert had already been branded a butcher and tried in absentia by the enemy, we didn't really feel that that was too much of a listen to me, acting like I was part of some major campaign decisions. The point is, before the scouting squad managed to catch up to him, Alberts had taken out a large amount of the mechanical aspects of the mine. The co-pilot was able to escape, between Albert's urging and the fact that the scouts didn't seem to care about him once as soon as he jettisoned. But, of course, Albert refused to give up until the end. I, in afterthought, regret the fact that I was too hung up on the previous pilot I worked with spend as much time with Albert as I could have. After discussing the situation with my team, we have decided that all of us will stay together for when the next pilot and mech arrives. Although I am suggesting that Albert's former co-pilot, having already had some experience with us, should be given the option to either train to replace Albert, or if their near-death experience has taken them out of the desire to be anywhere near mechs in the field, join my team as an advisor. Obviously, I wouldn't expect them to take that because that would be a step down for a military brat, but I figure it's the respectful thing to do for Al. Chief Mechanic, final log, save, submit, delete personal logs. Let's get the berth ready. And that, with it being 7:52, a short night, but a night nonetheless. So, with a second pilot executed in the line of duty, mostly because that time everything went wrong, quite impressively. Maybe I'll go for something lighter next week. I'll take a perusal through my solo RPG hoard. But for now, I wish you a good night, and we'll see you next week. And remember, try to be one of the good ones, because there are way too many of the bad. And like I said at the start, way, way, way too much shit going down for extremely, extremely fragile groups. Good night. I'll see you then.